We are back. It's the Joe Holka Show presented by FanDuel. It's our DFS first look at NFL Week 11, a true reaction of pricing inefficiencies and how we are seeing ownership shaking out, obviously early in the week, but transitioning into a new week. Very important to kind of get those first impressions. We will be building a lineup at the end, so make sure you guys stick around. Let's start with quarterback Hodge, and moving over. It looks like we do have Josh Allen leading the way, 8,800. We have Dak Prescott right behind him at 8,400 with Lamar. We finally got that Patrick Mahomes bounce back that we've been looking for. Oh, we got Dallas and KC this week. So
yeah,
tough spot for Mahomes to go into. We've seen how well this Dallas defense has played, but man, this is going to be a massive total, right?
Yeah, I was going to say this. I bet you this has got to be 55.5 straight out the gate. No questions asked. Especially with Dallas bouncing back and Kansas City bouncing back, the public is going to be all over this. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of that movement just up and down, whether it's in ownership projections, whether it's in line movement. So that this one will be funny. And Dallas is just like a very heavily publicly bet team, right? So this will be fun to watch for sure. And they're $100 from one another, 84 and 83. So it's like pick your poison, man. I immediately would gravitate to Dak in this spot. Kansas City is just a much more friendly matchup for me. And
even on the road, I'm with you. I think this is like this is the spot. Yeah, this is the spot. Yeah, we haven't had a game like this, like the marquee matchup, two like offenses that are very fantasy relevant in a long time, or at least the last couple of weeks that I can mention. So this is going to be fun.
Not since that late swap week, right? When like all the games were on the late slate. So this will be fun.
Yeah, that'll be fun. All right, so Josh Allen against Indy. All these other ones up top. Hopefully we get Kyler back. We'll see against Seattle. Maybe that game ends up being one of those division games that goes a little bit gross. We have Ryan Tannehill against Houston. Green Bay, Minnesota. I want your first impressions of this one because I'll be at this game, and I'm just like incapable of not having at least some piece. That's my initial thought too. Maybe this ends up being slow as well. Like these Packer games, man. Like it's great to have Davante Adams on your roster when he goes off, but when they just try and win like a good NFL team should, it's not great for fantasy at all.
Yeah, I'm kind of firmly on the stance of like there is one player to play in any Green Bay game, and it's just Adams. You soak up all the upside with Rodgers anyways. So like I don't know why you need to play like I don't know, man. You just
I got to see the price. Because we know that Minnesota just can't defend the boundaries whatsoever. Like their corners are just absolutely horrendous. So Devante Adams is 8,400. He's $1,000 too cheap. I'll just say that right off the bat. So we'll get there. I think that if we were to go down a little bit, tough spot for Jalen Hurts against New Orleans. We got Cam Newton back in a Carolina uniform. Joe Burrow against the Las Vegas Raiders at 7,400. Let's see what else we got down here. If we get a full go Taysom Hill, it looks like Simeon's still going to be like that whole situation's terrible for fantasy at this point. Justin Fields against Baltimore, 6,800. That is extremely cheap for a guy that's been running a lot. But man, this has been a season where I haven't loved a lot of the cheaper options at quarterback, especially on FanDuel when you can get up to these crazy ceilings at the top. It's really hard to click on one of these guys down below. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would say because of the pricing on FanDuel, you don't necessarily have to give up the ceiling. Like I think I've mentioned this a couple times on the show, but a lot of the pros are paying down a quarterback, but not so much on FanDuel,
right?
Because there's such loose salary. Did you just skip right over Cam Newton though? Like you did.
Dude, I've seen this guy try and throw a football. It's horrendous, man. I can't do it.
I just want to address the fact that FanDuel did not mess around.
7,500. There you go.
They just
best of luck.
Him.
I know that is crazy. Against Washington, maybe it was a matchup thing, but like I don't know. I always wonder like these pricing algorithms, right? Like they always have kind of a pulse on ownership, but also like sentiment, like across like the entire industry. Like people are talking about Cam Newton, he's back, all of these things, like all the memes, all that stuff. 7,500, man. He is the same, like almost the same price as Jalen Hurts. He's more expensive than Joe Burrow. Like this is insane.
Yeah. They immediately just are pricing Cam back to Superman Cam,
which I can't feel good about endorsing in good faith. So let's move on to running back. Christian McCaffrey, he's 10K again. Christian McCaffrey has been Christian McCaffrey for about 2 weeks now, even though they eased him in from a snap perspective. This could have been an absolute smash game for him last week if he doesn't step out of bounds, get stopped at the 1. He is $1,200 more expensive than Jonathan Taylor. Obviously, really tough spot for Taylor against Buffalo. We'll see if we get Kamara back in this one. Ezekiel Elliott, 80. So basically, We're going to have Zeke against Kansas City, 8,500. Dalvin still 8,400 against Green Bay. I do want to see one price, though, before I even get your take on that. A.J. Dillon, 7K. Okay, interesting. What about the top, though? What are your thoughts on CMC and those guys?
I think at this point with JT in a very tough matchup, and then timeshare concerns, like Tony Pollard is still involved. I know that Elliott is getting a lot of the work, but this price is slightly concerning. I think it's just there's this like clear gap for me where I'm gonna pay for CMC, and then I don't think I do anything until I get to like, I don't know, Dearness Johnson against Detroit. Like, yeah, man, I just give me running backs versus Detroit, bro. Like, did you see how horrible Pittsburgh played, and Najee still had like I think what, maybe 15 FanDuel points, and he didn't even find the end zone, bro.
I know. Like, that's the thing, though, that we could have saw coming. Maybe like this Patriots team, like, just for years, right? Like, they let you run on them between the 20s, but then they lock everything up around the goal line and force you to throw. Like, just, I mean, in a lot of ways, that's super optimal. But like, we could have seen like the big yardage game from Dearness Johnson coming, and then the no touchdowns. But man, just at their price last week, just an absolute smash. I'll ask you this before we even move on to some of the other prices. Did you have teams where you ended up playing Dearness Johnson and Ingram because they projected so well? Or are you one of those guys that gets galaxy brained himself like I did into playing one of them?
No, dude, they were way too cheap for their projected workload.
Yeah.
I couldn't even begin. If anything, I was playing both of them and Stevenson.
Too sharp,
if I just wanted, if I wanted to do it. So like,
that's why you're firing out the super chats. You just printed money with all the cheap running backs last week. What a guy.
Well, I think that there are times where, and sure, maybe one of the three don't work out, but you don't get murdered. And you play running backs who projects for good volume. I don't care if they're 80% owned or not. I said this on air with Scott Barrett Saturday night. Just like, when you have a volume projection running back who literally projects for bell cow workload at that cheap of a price, you just play it. It historically and in the long run will continue to pay off. So, don't get me wrong, there were still teams where I played the Jonathan Taylor, I played the Najee Harris, and those two running backs because I played small field early only stuff, right? So like, I was pretty much flexing a running back in almost every single one of my lineups this week.
Sure.
And it was either all three of the cheap ones or 2+1, but very rarely did I not have Dearness and Mark Ingram on the exact same team. And I think we maybe got hot with Mark Ingram. Like, he started off really slow, you know what I mean? But like, the play was still there.
Yeah. I think my issue is like, I literally like stared at the projections and the ceiling and all the lineups, and just any lineup that played both, the ceiling was just so massive, and compared to the ones where you forced in just one of them, maybe need to trust that a little bit on a week like that. But man, one of the prices that, like, as you scroll down a little bit, that kind of stands out, Daryl Williams, he's 6,300. Like, the workload for him, like, maybe CEH is just not good. I don't know. But 9 targets for Daryl in this one, gets in the end zone. Man, he had 100 receiving. He hit the bonus in receiving yards last night. I didn't even realize that. That's wild. 6,300 for him in this Dallas game. Not a great matchup, but that'll be one of the pieces that's definitely a little bit lower owned, gives you some salary relief, I would imagine. Thoughts on him?
We skipped right over AJ Dillon.
Yeah. Let's talk about AJ Dillon. I know I just said his price before, but he's 700 more than Daryl Williams. Great spot against Minnesota. All the reasons that we like the Chargers, like, why wouldn't we like AJ Dillon at 7K? I mean, I'm gonna be at this game, so I'm gonna probably have a bunch of AJ Dillon at that price.
I don't, honestly, Joe, you should just reg the Showdown only version of that game. You know, so you get all your action just so against. Might have to do that. So I think. I think that like the Daryl Williams versus CEH stuff, like, I'm always concerned about this workload split and what a coach may or may not do. But like, AJ Dillon, 80% snap share, right? Like, it has to happen. Yep. It absolutely has to happen. So to me, this is again a spot where, based off the projected volume and workload and touchdown equity that the Packers typically just bring to the table in general, I'm sure that they will have a decent implied team total. He should be 8K. Like, You know what I'm saying? Like, he should be a Dearness Johnson, or quite frankly, like a Dalvin Cook $8,500 player. So this discount is way too cheap, and this is a guy who I'll probably just click and then move on.
Yeah, and you're right about Daryl. Now that I think about it, like CEH should be returning this week, right? So maybe that's why the price is where it's at. So we can move on to wide receiver. We already mentioned that Davante Adams in the spot against Minnesota at 8,400. I think that's a fantastic spot to go to Davante Adams. Tyreek Hill against Dallas. So basically Tyreek Hill versus Trayvon Diggs. I don't know, man. Like 8,500. It looked like they kind of got right, and maybe they can kind of parlay that into a big game against Dallas. A lot of firepower at the top. CeeDee Lamb, this is the first time I think we've seen him at 8K again, like trying to target this Kansas City defense. I think that is an amazing spot. I want to see where Amari is, 7,300. So you're gonna have to pay for all of these guys, man. So it's one of those ones that we're going to have to work through as the week goes on. Ownership wise, Stephon Diggs against Indy, 8,100. The one thing that I liked about what Buffalo did last week is they really kind of tried to give teams different looks for the first time. It wasn't just like, let's dink and dunk down the field and then go deep to Stephon Diggs. It was like, yeah, we have some running backs that can get involved. We have all of these different guys that can touch the ball, and it's going to set up that deep play to Stephon Diggs. So maybe they kind of figured that out. Indy, not the best spot by any means, but man, at the top just seems absolutely loaded. Any thoughts on these guys?
Yeah, when you say like Indy not the best spot, it's also not a spot I'm avoiding.
Sure.
Like, I have no issues playing that, right? But it's not like some insane spot like you're saying. I think out of the top three here though, it's probably Adams for me on non-Dillon teams. Sure. That's the only problem, right? Or in optimal cash, I could honestly see both of them projecting to be optimal. So then on tournament teams where I'm playing Dillon, it's definitely just like, I think I'll just play Diggs against Indy. I don't really have a big interest in like Jamar Chase or Deebo Samuel though.
Yeah, now with Kittle back, that's such an interesting combo to have too, because I don't really. Debo is someone that I've just been trying to, I guess, pretend doesn't exist because I haven't played him enough this year, like a lot of people.
You and me and Cooper Kupp, right?
I got right on Cooper Kupp finally. I finally figured that one out. I've actually kind of gotten right on Jamar Chase finally as well, just because he's been such an easy tournament play at his ownership. No one wants to click that price, but Debo is one that I would prefer didn't exist. So I'm not sure about this week though. Jacksonville's look better. Their defenses look a lot better recently. Like, let's give them some credit.
Agreed. And so that's where I think not looking at like 8-week sample sizes and make sure that we're looking at 2 to 4 week, just like, or probably two's too small, but like looking at 4-week recent trends, I think is very important in daily fantasy sports.
No doubt. So we scroll down a little bit. We got Terry McLaurin, 7K, Adam Thielen, 7,100. Jalen Waddle up to 6,700. It's been nice playing him at like 5,800 to 6,200 or so for a while. DJ Moore is all the way down here at 6,700. Devonta Smith hasn't moved a ton. Tough spot against New Orleans, I would imagine, but he's finally kind of coming into zone a little bit. T. Higgins, 6,500. Like, there's a huge difference now between T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Yeah, so that's an interesting one. Brandon Ayuk, 6K, in that same game we were just talking about with Debo. Some of these prices they're aggressive with, going back and forth, right? Like Emmanuel Sanders got up to like mid 6Ks for a while, and now we got him all the way back at 5,800. Yeah.
This is when you play them, right? Like this is definitely when you get the price discount. You play these guys, you know what they're capable of, you know the routes that they're running, the targets that they're getting when they're running those routes, and when they get these discounted prices, I think it's just a really good idea to play them. There's two guys that we didn't necessarily skip over, but kind of that I want your take on is. The quick pricing look on AJ Brown here, that's pretty cheap for a guy who just consumes such a massive target share, for a guy who consumes as many air yards, and against Houston is definitely a fine spot to attack. So I think $7,200 AJ Brown there is probably okay. And then I don't know if you'll have this hand in the dirt take for me, or if we need to consult with a real film #watch the film guy, but what does Arizona give up underneath and more of like these? Because this DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett situation, they're priced pretty appropriately.
Yeah,
but I do think Lockett may be just a little bit underpriced if they're like zone 2.
Yep.
Like,
this is a Reeps question. I'm literally going to make a note to ask him about this specific thing, because he always like Reeps comes on Thursday if you're watching this early in the week, and we kind of get into some of these micro edges type of things, and he has a really good pulse on that sort of thing. Like, I think the depth of field stuff actually isn't talked about enough. Like, there's some teams like the Philly example is an easy one, right? Like, they literally refuse to let like anyone beat them deep, but they just let people eat in the short to intermediate area of the field. That's why people on Jerry Jeudy, Noah Fant last week at least made a lot of sense. AJ Brown, after basically a dud performance against Houston, I'm all over that, man. 7,200 against, I think that's definitely one that stands out for sure. Anything else, I guess, as you went down that stood out to you? I think I touched on most of the guys that I was kind of thinking about.
No, I think the rest will be injury news, shaking things out. If we
Michael Gallup 5,400.
He has Robbie Anderson back.
Oh God, man. Yeah, so it took Cam Newton to unlock Robbie Anderson. That's where we're at.
I know, bro. Hey, my best ball teams are clapping, dude. Okay, yeah. So I love to see it, but he kind of stands out there. But I think Gallup is probably
could be the chalk
in this range. Just yeah, man. Just give me the 6 deep Gallup targets and cross my fingers for $5,400.
Yeah. Man, I guess can we have a moment of silence for Allen Robinson at 5,700 now? This is just so sad because we already talked about the price point for Fields. I think he's all the way down at 6,800. So just the Fields to Allen Robinson stack, no one plays this. They keep moving it down. That's tough, man. I don't know. I get Allen Robinson somewhere else in his prime, please God. Tight end Travis Kelce 7,300. Obviously he got right last night. Mark Andrews, George Kittle, Darren Waller. We have all the guys on this slate. First time all year, I think we've had all the guys. So is there any preference at the very top at the tight end position? Because this is, again, on FanDuel, it's much easier to play these elite tight ends than kind of dumpsters dive down there for guys that probably don't have a ton of touchdown equity.
Anyone playing? Okay, no, I was where are the Browns at? The Detroit. Detroit gets the Browns. So, yeah, where's Hawk?
Hawk right here, 5,900.
Okay. Yeah, so
my feelings on Hawk. I need to play him more. I guess struggle with it because their total is always so low, and Detroit is just such trash. It's really hard.
I don't disagree, but I think
I'm saying I'm wrong because he gets so many targets. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, right? This is that conversation of team total and pace versus opportunity is always such a tough one for my brain to process.
Me too.
And I think it's just opportunity. Why does it matter that their team total is 21 points if he's literally going to see 11 targets? It's just okay, so you lose touchdown equity, which is big on FanDuel, but when they're in the red zone, he's still getting the work. So I don't know. It's always such a tough one.
I can't wait to see what the field does here, Hodge, because he just drops a 0 on us. But then you look past it, those 3 weeks before, so much volume, right? And then an absolute nut spot against Cleveland. So yeah, I think that's one that's going to be one to monitor ownership wise for sure. Dallas at Kansas City is that game that everyone's going to be gravitating towards. I always in the back of my mind think that Dalton Schultz is super sharp. He almost catches a touchdown right through his finger. I think Dak misses him in the end zone last week against Kansas City, another spot where, man, there's going to be enough pieces of Dallas that are cheaper, the Gallup and Dalton Schultz guys, to where you're going to be able to stack this game, I think, efficiently, at least in some ways. So I think he stands out.
Tyler Conklin no longer cheap enough for me to play. He's been a guy who I've just kind of go back and forth on when he's cheap enough, but I think I'll now just prefer the RSJ and the some of these cheaper guys over a Conklin. I genuinely think slate context, pricing, all of that stuff really, really matters at the quarterback and tight end position because we always can get so much more value at other positions that kind of dictate where the field goes with these players. So I will say right out of the gate, if I had to pick one of the volume monster guys, I'm going to leave Hawkinson out just because of the team and consistency. Kind of just want to play Darren Waller against Cincinnati. My only concern is just don't have a lot of swap equity on the late slate. When you spend that much salary at your tight end position, you could try and get up to Travis Kelce, which means you probably have to get weird at your third wide receiver and just maybe punt it off.
It's probably going to be Dalton Schultz as the pivot in that one, but at that point, I don't know. You're right. The people that have the tight end slot open, it's either going to be Darren Waller or Travis Kelce anyways. So, yeah, you're going to have to leave yourself. Pivoting away from this Dallas-Kansas City game is what you're getting to. There's really not a ton there in the other 2 games.
Yeah, so
why is there 2 games at 4? I hate that.
Yeah, dude. Well, and now that no, there's 3.
Is there? Am I blind?
405, 425, 425. Dal, Arizona.
What did I say? Yeah, 3. Normally there's at least 4.
Yeah, I know. This is so brutal.
Yeah.
I guess now that we're talking about it out loud too, is I guess if you're behind, you probably don't have to pivot off Darren Waller because he's already gonna not have a bunch of ownership, I'm assuming,
Yeah.
based on some of these other options below and above him. So
we've got another week
fine.
where we just jam in like the chalk game. We got Dallas KC at 425, and then you take some shots early, and then you have all the salary in the world to pivot away to, I guess, maybe Cincinnati guys or like these Seattle wide receivers at that point. So, yeah, I mean, I guess that seems pretty straightforward to me. I want everyone that's watching this right now, pause this video. Let me know in the comments who you think is going to be this week's highest owned player. Hodge, let's build a FanDuel team. This one will not be in the listener league because it's way too early in the week, but it is, I think, nice to build like a first look type of team. So where do you want to start this week? I'll give you the full board to go off of.
Yeah, this is actually an interesting spot at quarterback, and I think once again we'll probably just pay up. And I mentioned it right out of the gate that I would prefer to just take Dak over any of these other quarterbacks. I prefer Dak over Mahomes. I think I prefer him over Lamar. The only one who I probably don't prefer him over is Allen. Allen is actually in a spot where you can bring it back this week with Pittman specifically. But I just Buffalo's tough, man. So if we're gonna force a stack here with a bring back, it's Dak for me.
I like the Dak call a lot. Let's do this. I'm gonna leave the floor open as far as what you want to stack with, because I'm just going to put in AJ Dillon. I'm going to take the easy way out and make the hard decisions.
No, I think that's definitely the way to go. You suck for doing that.
Well, I think it's Gallup, right? I think let's put Gallup in because it opens up a ton price wise, and then we can kind of see where this team leads us. Probably, I guess we didn't even touch on defense at all. Let's see who like the cheapest home defense is. KC against Dallas, not doing that. Jacksonville against San Francisco, Minnesota against Green Bay. Maybe Jacksonville, if we believe that they've been a little bit better against San Francisco. They're just so run heavy, man. That one's always hard for me to click.
I don't care. I think there's just a full punt. I just try not to think about it, and I full punt, and I'll take my 6 points. And if it
close
works
our
out,
eyes, close our eyes. All right, so 7,100 the rest of the way. Now we have a lot more flexibility. So do you think we just throw in CeeDee Lamb on this team and kind of move on from there?
Okay, well, I'm actually gonna play Kelsey at tight end over Tyreek Hill.
All right, I'm in on that
to bring it back.
Man, it's unfortunate because CD is 8K, so that's really going to handcuff us if we do that. Maybe we try and figure out if he's like our last guy in type of thing, because at least we have some sort of flexibility with Gallup so far.
Yeah, or we just play Cooper at $7,300 and take the discount.
Could do that. We could. What was some of the wide receivers we were talking about that were? I guess.
Well, Lockett and AJ Brown were kind of cheap, but then there was Manny Sanders, who we talked about at $5,800. Obviously, going to have a great implied team total, playing a good amount of snaps. He was another guy, and then it was kind of weird below that. There wasn't we weren't 100% sure. So like, I think on a Monday morning, if I'm just like locking a button, it's probably Emmanuel Sanders for salary relief.
So then we got too cheap, and then we can basically do whatever we want at running back the rest of the way, which is a nice safe feeling.
Yeah, because I would love to play CMC against Washington.
I'm in, man. You don't have to talk me out of that one. That's for sure. So 10K CMC, you can get him in with. I mean, there's a lot of firepower on this team already. So 6,300 the rest of the way. I want to see what happens if we put CD in this team. 4,700. So you basically can't do it at this point.
Yeah,
build. If we play Amari, 5,400 if we really wanted to punt off flex, but man, it is a lot harder to get in those premium doubles if we're getting in CMC, no doubt. Is there a very cheap guy that you like to make that happen, or would you prefer we go kind of mid-range with the rest of these guys?
I think it's very mid-range is even tough to play. If we want to do Amari, like I think the Gallup Amari stuff is great. I think CD is probably clearly the most optimal play there, but like shoo boy,
I'm with you.
Very, very.
I'm just
tough.
seeing if there's like a flex down there at so if we put Amari in and he is 7,300, so he's definitely not free, but significantly cheaper than CD. I'm with you. Then we're gonna go all the way down 5,400. We already have a cheap defense. We have no real flexibility there. We're looking at I mean, you thought it was gross before, man. It's really gross down here.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know if we can do not this early in the week. Like I don't know if there's really like anything that's opened up this cheap yet, unless we wanted to completely dumpster dive. So let's take Amari out of it for now. And if we move down a tier from Amari, like we could always play Terry for. I guess it doesn't really do a ton for us at that point. If we play Terry minied with CMC, I think there's worse ideas than that one.
What about T Higgins? $6,500.
Yeah. that leaves us with 62 in the flex, which I would imagine we'll see something down there that we like. So 6,200 the rest of the way. We can go mini with Renfro. What do you think about that?
Yeah, Renfro lack of ceiling for sure.
Go Ayuk at 6K. I think those are like the two main ones, unless we wanted to go double tight end, which I'm not a fan of that.
How many snaps has Gaskin been getting?
That's a good question.
I don't know, man. Last 4 weeks, 14, 20, 12, 15.
Oh yeah, okay. He's still being used in the passing game.
2, 6, 4, 4, 6, 10.
And it's the Jets.
Against the probably just as bad as the Detroit defense. Lock it up, baby.